Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to day 6 of my 7 days of Halloween. Well, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be creating some cute decorative reels that go in a matching pocket. Now, these designs are perfect for junk journals, but if you don't create junk journals, they still would be great little additions to your cards. You can put one of these reels in attached with a gift card. You can put little ephemera pieces in here. There's lots of things you can do with pockets. So I want to go ahead and show you how I created these. Now, I have the old die from Tim Holtz that was impossible to find, and it's the real die. It looks like an old Viewmaster, and it is one of those dies that was not real popular when it came out, but after several years it became pretty popular. And the reason I say that is because there were so many people looking for that, and the few people that had it were charging an arm and a leg for it. Well, I got fortunate enough to actually find it on a craft de-stash site, and I got it for a pretty reasonable price, and I am so glad that I did. It is just one of my favorite dies to work with. And one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's the steel dies that go through the thicker cardboard, because I like to make these a little bit sturdy. Now, when I create these, typically what I'll do is I will get some double-sided tape and I'll add it to my cardstock, and then I will run it through my Big Shot, and then that way I have some decorative paper on the front. The back is typically just cardboard, and I don't really worry about that too much, but you can actually put designer paper on both sides if you chose to do that. But I wanted to go a step further. I wanted to create some matching pockets. And my husband actually has a vintage views shop that he sells vintage Viewmasters. And I took one of his envelopes and I created a template to be able to cut these on my Scan and Cut. So I'm able to actually reproduce these over and over again using designer paper, and it is now one of my favorite things to do because it enables me to use some of my fun little ephemera, and I can make these pockets for different occasions. I can make just vintage inspired pockets, I can make Halloween pockets, Christmas pockets. There's just so many designs that I can do creating with this design. So I cut several of these out, and I'm actually going to have these in the shop that you can decorate as well. So I'll leave links to the description in the description box where you can find some of these little reels with matching pockets. So I pulled out my Halloween ephemera and I just started playing a bit. I knew I wanted to have a label on the front part of the pocket, and then I was going to just kind of decorate the reel according to whatever theme I decided to go with. So I found some really fun ephemera in the Halloween packs that Tim Holtz came out with this year. And I got out my walnut stain and I just started distressing the edges of the ephemera. And then I decided to go ahead and also add some ink to the edges of my pocket as well. Sometimes when you're using your Scan and Cut, it might not cut it perfectly, so I decided to go ahead and just kind of work with that imperfection and add some ink along the way. All right, so now that I have my envelope designed, I can go ahead and start working on my reels. And there's really no rhyme or reason to these. I mean, these are just so fun to create, especially if you don't want to get out all of your ink pads. Maybe you have some ephemera that you've been hoarding. It's just really fun to create these little pockets. And you can create these ahead of time. So if you like to make junk journals, or if you like to make journals that have pockets, you can make these ahead of time. And then just put them aside so when you actually go to make your journal, you have little bits to add to it as well. Now, as I was digging through my ephemera pieces, I realized I didn't have a lot of small labels. And being that I'm able to work in Photoshop and I create a lot of my own digital items, I decided to create some of my own labels. And what I love about creating my own labels is the fact that I can reproduce them over and over again. So as you see here, I have a sheet that I created. And truth be told, this sheet is for one of my upcoming classes that I'm going to be giving, but I use it for my personal use as well. But I went ahead and I just cut out this small poison label because it's going to work perfectly for my little scene. So one of my favorite types of designs to create during the Halloween season is an apothecary scene. So whenever I have a chance to work with vintage labels or pharmacist items, I always jump at the chance. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish trimming up this little label that I'm going to be adding as a decorative item to my scene. Now, one of the things that I do when I'm creating these layers is I always like to pop up one of the items, not all of them, but one of them. Most of my items go flat, but I like to have one item pop up, and it really creates a nice 3D effect. And for this design, I'm going to go ahead and add this poison label to the small mortar and pestle, and it will fit perfectly once I have it all trimmed up. Now, I know many people struggle with layers, but to be honest with you, this is probably one of the easiest types of designs for me. I have no problem covering up some of my ephemera pieces because I really like to look at the overall picture. So what I would say to you is, if you are going to create some of these, before you actually commit to gluing them down, kind of place the pieces and just play with them a little bit. I find that a lot of times I may not know exactly what design I'm gonna go with, but once I start playing with the pieces and I start putting them together, the design kind of brings itself together. So just have some fun with it. And then as final touches, I love to add these little clips on the top of my reel. While it probably is not necessary, I really like having something to grab onto, especially when you put these in junk journals or in little books, because it just makes it really nice to be able to have something to grab onto. All right, so let's go ahead and start working on the second one. So for the second one, I had already picked out a label, and this is going to be the table of skeleton. So I decided to already go with a skeleton theme when I start to put this together. Now, I had picked up this Halloween season some of those little squares that Tim Holtz created, and these are the layered squares. I think that's what they're called, but they're just the mini squares that have different pieces of ephemera all put together and cut out. So if you like to collage but don't always have a great idea of where to start, some of these little squares are perfect to get your layering going. And I use that along with a label on the background to create my background. And then from there, I just added my little character, and then I added the number 13 to kind of go with a Halloween theme. So as you can see, it doesn't really take a lot to put these together. You just got to kind of figure out what your theme is going to be, figure out a paper doll that will work on these little reels, and then it's just a matter of adding your adhesive and some of your final touches. Now for this one, what I popped up was the number 13. So everything else was flat, and then my number 13 is what popped up. So as you can see, these two pockets came together pretty easily. Now ordinarily, I don't like to make projects where you can't get some of the supplies. I know not everybody has this real die and the pocket I created with my scan and cut. So I'm going to go ahead and have these in the shop in sets that you can work with as well. They're going to be the pockets and the little reel will match, but you'll be able to decorate these with your own pieces of ephemera. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit different than we normally do, but I definitely wanted to share these pockets with you because I think they're going to be so fun, not only for Halloween, but for other occasions as well. And they work great for those junk journals. So if you enjoyed my video today, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified when my videos do pop up. I will have my final video tomorrow in my 7 Days of Halloween series, and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.